very good day to you wherever you are in this world. Welcome to another episode of Everyday Heroes, a podcast that we've designed to inspire and remind you of the greatness that lies already in you. Today, as my very special guest, we have the wonderful Ayo Moon, a wonderful young man that I got the privilege of meeting about maybe, what do we say, Ayo, about 4, 5, 6 weeks ago?
About 4 or 5 weeks ago, yeah, Dom.
4, 5 weeks ago. Fantastic. Through a Cornet Young Leaders presentation that I did in Sydney. And here was this wonderful man that came along to this presentation, and we built a wonderful rapport and learned about his wonderful story of how he emigrated to Australia just very recently. And I just wish that when I had that meeting with him over coffee, I had a video recorder because I was so inspired by his story. And I just wish that the world could learn even more from him, learning from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Our mission in life is to inspire the very best out of people. And one of the great things that we do have the honor of is meeting wonderful people like Ayo. Ayo is a facilities management professional all the way from London, England, who has recently emigrated to Australia, as we mentioned. Before moving from the UK, Ayo worked in management roles across London for several major companies, with his role prior to moving being with the BBC, the British Broadcasting Company. He holds a degree in International Business Management from Cardiff University in Wales, and he is a fitness, literature, and music enthusiast. Share with me maybe, Ayo, as a great introduction to this episode, and I thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this, expressing vulnerability, being prepared to do that to serve the greater good. Tell us a little bit more about what your name means in your native Nigerian.
Oh, absolutely, Dom. Firstly, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I feel really honored to be invited to come onto your podcast. So just a bit of background on me. So my full name is actually Ayo Moon. So that's my full name provided. So Ayo Moon. And in Yoruba, which is my native language in Nigeria, my name actually means my joy has come.
Wow, so, my joy has come. I feel the joy.
I shortened it down to Ayo, which is joy. And I just always try and embody that whenever I come out and meet people. Because I mean, if my mum went out of her way to call me Joy from the get-go, I've got to try and live up to that name.
Wow, what a beautiful gift. Firstly, congratulations to your mum for giving you such a lovely gift, and just you working your best to live up to that each and every day, being joy. I think I felt that joy in your presence, and there must be a reason why. Out of so many people who came to that emotional intelligence talk that day, I think we formed a real bond. Because as you know, it being emotionally intelligent, I think the key is to focus on being, because what you are and who you are and the emotional states that you're in affect your behaviors and which affect your outcomes. One of the key things that really fascinated me about your story was so many people, including me, often struggle with change and disruption. And yet, in your story, you seem to be the initiator of that change. So I'm always very fascinated about what makes people make big moves like leave their home country to travel halfway around the planet to get to another country. And not only that, many people make that decision, and yet when they come to that new country, they struggle. And so just learning about how you settle in so well and just taking charge of the outcomes that you wanted. And in fact, just seeing that you make time to attend a networking session, right? That itself was leadership to me. A little bit about your background, if you may, Ayo.
So I actually decided that I wanted to leave the UK, aka my homeland, probably when I was about 13 years old, to be honest.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's been quite an early plan for me. I think, like most people, young people growing up when they're younger, you watch TV and you see everything that's out there in the world. And a part of me just said to me, the world is such a huge and incredible place. And I want to go out there and experience everything firsthand, because that's the huge part of my personality, is that I really prefer to go out there, experience things firsthand, and come to my own judgments on them, Yeah. So ever since I was young, I decided that's what I want to do. I'm definitely going to leave the country. I'm going to go and work. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I want to work and live internationally. That's my dream. So ever since then, from about 13, I just kind of started to make small steps towards that goal. And I think that's the most important thing that I really tried to remember was when I was young, is that goals don't just appear and happen. It's small incremental steps happening over your life that eventually reach you to those places. So at school, I decided I like business, so I decided to take business courses. And when I got to university, when I was leaving school to go to university, I thought to myself, right, everything that I'm doing now is for the eventual goal of living and working internationally. So what do I need to do that? So I thought, right, I like business, but if I want to work outside, I hope I can get a degree that kind of helps me when I do that. Thankfully, there are degrees like that, and I found international business management over at Cardiff University, and I absolutely loved it. So I took that course. So I said, great, that's going to be really helpful for me later on. Finished my degree at university. I was still, like most young people, a bit unsure exactly what I wanted to do long term. But thankfully, there are many graduate schemes out there which allow you to apply a wide range of skills before actually realizing exactly what you'd like to specialize into. So I've managed to find a graduate scheme with a company called Amy, who are a large infrastructure firm in the UK. So I joined that graduate scheme, which is a 2-year graduate scheme, and I started off on highways because it's a big infrastructure firm. Started on highways. I found it wasn't for me. I moved on to rail consulting, found it wasn't for me.
Okay.
And then I actually had a bit of a talk with my mentor on the course, who happened to be in facilities management. He was a director of a facilities management account in central London. And he said to me, Ayo, the skills that you like to apply during your job are, you like to be personable, face-to-face work with your employees, you like management and working collaboratively as a team, and you like a role which allows you to implement all of your more usual business skills alongside your personality. And he said, look, facilities management is a fantastic career in which you get to do all of those things. Personally, I'd never heard of what facilities management is. And I think, like a lot of people who end up in facilities management as a career, you kind of just fall into it and then you kind of fall in love with it.
Wow.
Because it never occurred to me that the people who keep the buildings running, do everything in the background, there's an actual job for that. You kind of just take it for granted when you go into buildings. So I got into facilities management and I just absolutely loved it. It's a great job because not only does it allow you to work with teams in order to keep buildings running, but there's a lot of client facing and there's a lot of relationship building, because it is a relationship in facilities management. You know, you provide a service and to make the best possible workplace for people to work in, and that's really important for people. I mean, if it's your house, you want to make it as nice as possible, and it's the same for your workplace.
Wow.
So that's how I ended up in facilities management.
Amazing, my friend. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think firstly, you shared with us that the seed of traveling to Australia came from just what I call curiosity. Would you agree? An interest
Absolutely.
to learn
Completely
and
agree.
see the world. And because the reality is the default mode for most people that makes them struggle with change is they seek comfort, they seek security, they seek routine. And yet for you to have that gift of still remaining like that inner child that we have inside of us, ever curious, right? Pursuing the fulfillment of your highest potential. And then secondly, having that vision, setting that lighthouse in the distance, and then saying, how can I make it work? And being willing to do whatever it takes. And that's powerful. But I also hear that your mentor played a little role in you being here as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the most important things that I've come to realize is, as I've gotten older, especially, because when you're young and you have a dream, even when you know your dream with a passion, you always think that you have the best ideas on how to get that because it's your dream. One of the best things that I've come to realize is to draw support from people who are further along in the same kind of life stages as you, and get them to really give you some advice. Because one of the things that I hate the most is when I fall over mistakes or trip over mistakes, which I could have avoided as long as I've gone to talk to people. And I think that's just something that everybody comes to learn of as they make mistakes by not doing that. So I thought to myself, I have a big dream. It is a big dream. It's out there. I want to go there. I've got the energy. I don't know how. Let me ask someone. So I asked my mentor, and he was fantastic. He told me facilities management is this kind of career. This is what you need to do, and these are the kind of skills you need to do to apply yourself. And one of the main things that he told me is that this is a job where if you never stop trying to improve yourself and improve the relationships that you have with your teams and your clients, you'll continue to go extremely far.
The real gift that you have is that humility and the courage to ask for help. In many cultures, especially the Asian culture that I grew up with, man, it's a sign of weakness to ask for help. You know, we put up this bravado and we have to show, hey, I've got it under control. And yet, you know, your willingness to respect that time is the number one thing that is the most precious asset that you have. And to do what I call stand on the shoulders of giants. Would you mind sharing with us, how old are you right now? Because you seem to have so much wisdom.
I am 29 years old.
Wonderful. Once you've had that dream and you're not quite sure how to get there, but you're just taking one step at a time. But along the way, what I've also learned is that as long as you're pursuing with all your might, funny little things happen in the way because of your energy. And you use that keyword there, energy, because energy attracts, right? So you attract people with a similar energy to your life, and then they give you further guidance on how to get there. That's amazingly awesome. Because the hardest step for most people is having that dream, seeing that lighthouse, but it's so hard for them to just cast off on that boat, right? They wait until the roadmap is perfectly clear before they have that certainty. But for you, it was just like, I know where my heart goes. I'm just going towards it, and I trust that it will pan out. You seem to have all these amazing qualities. Tell us a little bit about the people prior to your wonderful mentor who had such an guidance or an impact into the philosophies that you have.
So I would actually have to say that my personal drive to just keep going forward is probably something that I picked up from my mum. And I say this because I come from a single parent back home. My mum's Nigerian, moved to the UK, had 2 sons, which she had to raise on her own. All the while, she was also getting her medical degree. And to be honest, we started off in a 1-bedroom council flat in London. My mum worked extremely hard until eventually she got her own degree. Her job got better. She then moved us into a house, and she did all of this by herself as a single parent, and then put 2 little boys through school. And I just thought to myself as I was growing up, one, that my mum is my biggest hero, obviously. And secondly, if this woman can do all of this by herself, raise 2 children, do a job, and still improve her life at the same time, I just thought to myself, there's nothing I can't do. I don't have an excuse. I have nothing in order to do that. And it was just her work ethic, which I saw firsthand, and then instilled within myself, that said, unless my circumstances are worse than that, or in any way, the only person I'm kidding by not doing better is myself. And I just use that as a driver to keep going forward. So I really do appreciate a lot of my own personal drive to get better to my mum. Apart from that, thankfully, I had a very supportive family who instilled in me the importance of firstly working hard, but also drawing on your support of your network as a whole. And I think that was very important, because I took that from my life, my personal familial life, and moved that into my business life as well. Because you're only as good as your network. You're only as good as your support network, and the support network that you build in order to push yourself forwards. And I think you should always use that when you're looking to progress yourself in career-wise. Because as we've said previously, you stand on the shoulders of giants. There are people there who have done all of those things, and these people are usually more than happy to, as long as you go with a good attitude and, you know, a willingness to learn and work hard, they're more than happy to impart that information over to you. So find someone who inspires you with their work ethic, and try and internalize that into yourself, and then find a network that will not only support you, but build you up, and use those 2 things to chase your goals.
You're a amazing role model, and I just love that you're also sharing with our audience out there. Work ethic so important. You gotta have that dream, and you gotta back it up with that perspiration. Inspiration not enough. You gotta have that perspiration, right?
When you mention that about the old generation, I think that is something that I want to make a quick point to talk about, is that like you said, our older generation, they didn't come from as good, they didn't have as many opportunities as people who, like my own generation, who've been born into now have. And because they didn't have those opportunities, they really strive to work hard to get them. And I think that's one of the things that I always try to make sure to the trap to not fall into, is to get comfortable in the fact that we've now got all of these things available to us. It's easy, for lack of a better word. The struggles that we don't have to go through are nowhere near as much as people in our past had to. One thing that I wanted to not forget is that my parents moved because they wanted to create the life that was best for them. They had a vision of a life that they wanted to go to, and they wanted to do that. And I have a vision of a life that I want to go to, and that's what I'm moving towards, chasing towards now. And sometimes, unfortunately, your vision means that you can't stay in the same warm, humble bubble that you were born into, because unfortunately your vision is larger than the bubble. And that's the fear. The fear is the unknown, and escaping that bubble and trying to chase a dream, because the dream is fleeting. The dream it's not tangible and it hasn't been realized yet. So the fear of losing out on what you potentially have here in your bubble to chase something that's not yet tangible can be very scary. I've always tried not to let fear be the decider in any of the factors that I have. Don't get me wrong, fear plays a very important part, because fear keeps you humble. It keeps you very prudent on your choices, and to make sure that the choices that you make are truly the best ones for yourself. But fear has also been the reason that I've just said, do you know what? I won't let fear conquer my decisions to what I want to do. Fear's good. Keep it on your side, because it's your best friend in making sure that you make good choices, but don't let it be your deciding factor.
Good on you. There's so much wisdom in that. As they say, courage is not the absence of fear, because moving forward towards a vision where you've not been there and done that before, it takes a fair bit of courage.
Absolutely.
And the stress and the fear that you go through is what we call eustress, EUSTRESS. Very similar stress to Michael Jordan, greatest basketballer in the world has ever seen, going into the biggest game of his life, the heart palpitation. But that's self-created. You set that goal, you're pursuing it. It's not that same fear of sitting down and being anxious and being negative about, oh, what if this happens, da-da-da-da. You're doing it anyway out of that faith that no matter what happens, I will find a way, because I've got a great network around me. And more importantly, I have the resources in me. Thank you so much for sharing off that. Tell me, you said that, man, I want to see the world. How did Australia come to your decision as one of the key steps in your journey?
So the reason I came to Australia has got to do more with my personal life than anything else. As I left university and I was in my graduate scheme, as I mentioned previously, I met my now wife.
Wow.
Lovely woman. Her name's Tess Moon. And when we met, we got talking, and I told her a little bit about my life plans. And I said, look, I don't plan on staying here in the UK. My wife is Australian. She's a teacher who came to the UK to do get some work experience before going back to Australia. And I said to her, I don't plan on staying in the UK at all. It's my dream to leave here anyway, but I'm just planning on getting some experience now before I leave. And my wife said, well, I'm going to be going back to Australia. Would you like to stay? Would you like to come with me? And I said to my wife, I've never been to Australia, but I've heard great things. The beaches, everyone talks about the beaches. Let's go check it out. And then when I came over to Australia, I actually fell in love with the country. It's a really modern country. The weather's fantastic. Everybody seemed really, really friendly. And for me, the place, what I said to the next place that I wanted to live and work in, I wanted to live in a place where I felt comfortable, a place that resonated with myself as an individual. And I really found the Australian culture of being very practical, being very welcoming, being very laid back, having a nice work-life balance, really resonated with everything that I was looking for. So that's the reason. So my wife, thankfully, dragged me over here to Australia, and now able to enjoy the Australian dream with the rest of you.
Brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. So it sounds like the seed of you being in Australia was, number one, the fulfillment of your highest potential, wanting to grow, be curious. But the other seed was love.
It was.
Couldn't be fair.
Absolutely. Like they say, one of the most, probably the most powerful thing in the world, love.
I think Tony Robbins, one of my favorite quotes, he says, it's in the moments of your decisions that your destiny is shaped. And for me, it's not about decisions, it's about the quality of the decisions. And the quality of the decisions are usually determined by the emotional state that you were in when you made a decision. If you made a decision out of fear, I'm not enough, the fruit of the tree is often a reflection of the seed. That's what you get. Very often a result where you're still disappointed, not good enough. And yet your seed was love. Your seed was fulfillment. And I hope that arriving in Australia has given you even more of that.
Oh, absolutely. It has been an amazing experience. I've come at definitely an interesting time. We had the bushfires, red suns,
Yeah.
floods, and now we have our isolation now. But overall, Australia has been great, very welcoming, and I could definitely get used to this weather.
So tell me, when you arrived in this country, and this beautiful country of Australia, how long before you found your first role? Or did you already secure a role before you came here?
No, so I tried to try and secure a role, as most people would when they're trying to move country. But I actually found there was a bit of a barrier in terms of my facilities management. I found that a lot of companies were not willing to give you a definite secured role until you actually landed in the country, because, to be understandable to them, they can't be sure whether you continue to fall through, and they've obviously got to make sure that their business is put priority number one.
Right.
So I didn't have a role coming over to Australia, and what I did was, like most people, I got on LinkedIn, searched for jobs, applied for jobs, I contacted recruiters. So about a month went past, and I'd been seriously on my LinkedIn, applying for jobs, and it was just rejection after rejection, rejection after rejection. And I was really confused, because I thought to myself, I've got some really good experience here. Why are things so difficult since I've come over here? And I did start to get a little depressed, as anyone would. But at the end of the day, I said, keep chipping away and see where you get. I just kept waiting. Unfortunately, nothing came through. Then there was a recruiter, a gentleman called Oliver Boot, who, funny enough, was working for a recruitment company who I applied for a job a while back for. And he called me up and said, "Hi, I know you applied for this job. Unfortunately, the job hasn't come through, and we don't think it's going to be the best one for you." Fantastic. But he said, "Look, I'm also an expat from the UK living here in Sydney." He said, "I'm actually going to a corporate real estate mixer in Sydney. Would you like to come with me? It might be a good opportunity to come and meet some people, and just get your name out there." And I just thought to myself, this is a guy who I spoke to about once, 30 seconds, maybe 3 weeks ago. I just thought it was amazingly kind that he offered to bring me to this corporate real estate mixer. He doesn't know me, purely just from his own personal kindness, and said, obviously, this guy's trying to get a leg out, let's help him out. One thing that I was quite happy about when he invited me to this corporate real estate mixer is I thought to myself, the first thing that came into my head was, right, this is the perfect opportunity for me to network and try and get a job. And I just went out there with a smile. I got to know people. I said, "Hi, my name is Ayo. I'm here from the UK. I've just moved to Australia. I'm completely here on my own, and I'm looking for work. Wow. And these are my qualifications. This is what I want to do. This is my goals for the future." Ran around, tried to meet everyone, talking to everyone. I let everyone know who I am. I actually got some business cards printed out as well, just to say, this is my name, Ayo, facilities manager professional. I'm looking for jobs. It was absolutely worthwhile. I met several extremely helpful people from different corporations, especially the company which I'm now in, CBRE. So I met one of their senior directors at this CoreNet event, and I talked to him and I said, "Look, I'm looking for work. This is what I'm looking for, and I think your company is one of the companies which I'd love to work for." He gave me his card and he said, "Please email me tomorrow morning." So the next morning I woke up after the corporate real estate mixers with several business cards in my hand, like, amazing. This is a good haul from some excellent networking. And I just took out the email and I emailed him. His name was Gary. And I just said to him, "Hi, Gary. Really pleased to meet you last night. I really appreciate your offer to help me with any work. Please let me know if there's anything else I can do." I had an interview set for the job which I now secure for 2 days later, that very, very same Friday.
Wow.
And it was amazing, because I spent maybe 3 months applying online, just sending in my CV. And all it took was 1 day of going out there and talking to people and getting myself out there to actually have a job lined up. And the interview process went well, obviously. And now here I am, job secured.
Congratulations. The universal language that attracts everyone is energy.
It is.
energy that you had. I love that little distinction that you had. Don't just tell people what your experience is, what your qualifications are. Share with them what your dream is. Everyone wants to hire people or are attracted to people who have a dream and who go places, right? And you had that.
Absolutely.
So that's a fantastic distinction. And secondly, your experience is so relevant to anyone who's lost a role today, right? Who has got retrenched, who's out in the workplace, especially right now. Unemployment is, at about 10%, they say, and maybe even rising beyond this. I think your story is going to give people so much confidence that I hope that people get that Ayo's success today is, yes, his qualifications absolutely did it. Yes, his experience was relevant, but the number one thing that really stood out was your energy. Your energy.
Absolutely.
And
I would always say the way that I always try and live my life is that I always try and say, if I don't do it, will I regret it?
yeah,
But for me, I always think to myself, if I put in 100%, if I try every avenue, if I put myself out there as much as possible and it doesn't happen, I'm happy to step back and just say that wasn't for me. But if I don't put in all my avenue, if I do put it all in and it works out, then fantastic.
And also I want to point out to everyone else who's listening today, all our wonderful listeners, that having some negative thoughts, feeling frustrated, getting a little bit depressed when you get all those rejections, normal, nothing wrong with that. It's about just sucking it up. It's just the way it is. Don't make it personal. Happens to everyone around us. Never lose sight of that dream and backing yourself, because one of the key things that you also have in bucket loads of, and I hope you never take for granted, Ayo, is your self-confidence. Before you arrived here, knowing that people might not give you a role until you were here in Australia and you backed yourself that I'm going to be here and just through my energy and positivity, I will find something. That self-talk is so important.
Absolutely. And I think another thing to make point of is that if you keep having destination chasing and you keep thinking only the destination is going to be what's going to make you happy, then you miss out on all the journey in between. I thought when I was moving over here, I thought, even if I don't get the job that I want,
yes,
even if I make the move, all the time up to when I get that job will all be new experiences which will help shape me into a better worker and a better person. I mean, I was unemployed for 3 months when I landed here. And yes, like most people, it did make me anxious and it was a real fear. Obviously you have to pay bills and everything. But at the same time, I thought to myself, this is also a perfect opportunity to test and work on my own self-resilience.
Right.
If I can use this time, which I would call a negative time, to actually work on other aspects of myself, which in the future will then pay out in the long run, definitely do that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Just love that distinction. It's a little bit like COVID-19 now. A lot of people are maybe having a little bit of downtime, a little bit of a period of negativity. And, your story is really encouraging them to make something of it. Enjoy the journey. Make sure that you're focusing on, during these times, because our brain is structured towards helping us avoid danger. It's so easy to focus on danger because the press reminds us every day, number of deaths, how long the lockdown is going to stay on for. And yet, when you focus on danger, you're not focusing on the rainbow. Share with us, what were one of your 2 key strategies to stay really positive and motivated during that period of challenge, I suppose? You call it the period of negativity, that period. How do you stay pumped, and stay psyched?
Remember how far you've come. Remember that things happen in stages. And remember that Rome isn't built in a day. You keep working towards your goals. That was number 1 in keeping myself motivated. Number 2 in keeping myself motivated was I used that time just to do a lot of research. And when I say research into, firstly, Australia as a country. I came to a new country, which I didn't know a ton about. I also used that as research for the market in this new country as well. But at the same time, I also just decided to take this time to reevaluate what I decided were what my goals were and how I wanted to move towards them. When I broke down my goals into easy manageable segments like that, and then I saw all the things that you need to do in order to make the goal happen, it makes the goal a lot less scary. And once you break down into small parts, if you don't know how to fix a certain piece, ask someone,
Mm,
reach out in
mm.
small parts, and then help that. Like I said, I wouldn't even have got my job if not for that Oliver calling me out of the blue and inviting me. So nobody can go places on their own. And that's exactly what you need to keep in mind.
Good on you. Good on you. Fantastic. There was a wonderful African proverb that said that alone we can only go so far, and then together we can travel to the moon, you know. And
Absolutely. One that my mum always used to say is, it takes a village to raise a child. You know, and I think that's just so true. It's such it's just a saying that just applies so much in the world.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing with that wisdom. You know, they say that leaders create certainty in times of uncertainty. And, you know, you're a reflection of that leader, because during times of anxiety, the natural default is to freeze, fight, or flight. Your ability to just pause, look back, and celebrate how far you've come, you know, celebrating the blessings, and then sitting down and saying, well, I may not be able to see the pinnacle yet. I can see it in my mind. However, I can map and focus on just taking that next step. I don't know how to run a marathon, but I can certainly get to that first telegraph pole today. If I work on getting to the next one tomorrow and I keep consistently doing that, I will get there. You create that certainty for yourself in times of uncertainty by not just having that vision in your mind, but by creating that plan. Ayo, I also want to touch on one little point, if I may. You shared with me during the coffee conversation that when you took on this role, would it be fair to say that you had taken the role that was maybe 1 or 2 levels lower than you were probably experienced with in London?
Absolutely. So, in terms of roles, this is it's a less senior role than what I was used to back in the UK. At the end of the day, this role is a stepping stone. Like every role that I have done in my life, I have always realized that they're going to be for a season.
Yes.
And then eventually you move into a new season.
Beautiful.
And when I moved to a new country, I realized that if people aren't willing to provide me with the same level of role that I was in the UK because of obvious circumstances, that's okay. What I will do is I will take a role that is below the role that I usually was, and I will prove to these people that I can do exactly the same role that I said that I can. Like I've said to you, I'm much better in person, much more personable, and I think it's the same with work. People like tangible realities. You know, you can tell people that you can do something, but until you show them with your attitude and the way that you deliver your work, they won't believe you. Taking a lower role is giving me an opportunity now to ease myself into understandings of the entire Australian market. And alongside that, I can also now use this time whilst I'm in a lower role where I don't have as much responsibility as I usually have to network, to meet people, to get to know this country, get to know this industry, get to know the corporate real estate landscape of Australia. I think it's all about how you frame setbacks, whether you take them as an affront to yourself, as a massive damaging into your dream, or whether you just use them as another learning opportunity. And that's how I've tried to view it.
Wonderful. I just love your philosophy, my friend. And your energy, I think, also comes a lot from your mindset, the way you think, your perspectives, as you say, right? How do you see it? Do you see failure as, oh, I'm not good enough, this place doesn't accept me, and you go into blame and victim mode? Or do you see, oh, no, I'm going to learn from this. It's an opportunity to get even better.
It's not how well you take changes, it's your resilience to those changes and moving forward that will really be the thing that causes success in your life.
Fantastic. I don't think I need to tell you, you're an inspiration, my friend. And I can only imagine all the listeners out there, getting that, I'm going to start mapping out my plan, never losing sight of my dream again. I got to get the engines going and going out there and, connect and lean on others for a little bit if it needs to. And also, I know that anyone that is looking to lean on you, I'm sure that you'd be more than glad to also share of your wisdom. And
absolutely. I mean, I don't just do networking for work. I love meeting people. And that's obviously evident when I came and just met you for coffee, Dom. I think life is more enriched by the different people that you meet in your life, because you have no idea how they're going to help you to springboard you forward. Wow. I mean, if I hadn't met you, Dom, we wouldn't have had that amazing talk. I wouldn't be on this podcast. If I hadn't met Ollie, I never would have gone to Cornet to meet a job. Life is about the small things and the people that you meet that really enrich it, you know?
Thank you, my friend. And I've had to learn that the hard way, being very shy, introverted when I was younger, and just putting that into my personality. Making it a priority. I learned that the quality of your life is a quality of just two things: the emotions you consistently experience and the relationships that you have. And realizing that if I make that a priority, all the other things may or may not fall in place, but life becomes amazing. Perhaps switching gears a little bit, what are you most psyched about these days?
To be honest, I know this is going to be really, really odd, but I'm actually really excited for how much my industry is going to change post-pandemic. A lot of the novels that I read, a lot of history novels, tell you that the greatest changes happen during adversity. And now we're now living in a pandemic that's forcing everybody to be indoors. As a facilities management professional, the amount of new information and new ways of working, and the way that we may move towards more people working from home and less people being in an office, means that my industry is going to drastically change over the next coming months. And I'm actually really excited to be at the forefront of that and to see how it goes. Wow. It's not often that you get to be at the forefront of history and change. And it's not often that you realize that at the time and can take advantage of that. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, sad as I know, but I'm looking forward to seeing how much the world changes and just exactly what I can do to help facilitate a new, better working environment.
Absolutely. I think if everyone comes out of COVID the same as they were before it, man, they're going to be left behind. And it's the people like you who are growing and embracing the new normal and just seeing it as an adventure, an opportunity to grow. That's wonderful. Even for me as a coach, I get LinkedIn posts all the time, the death of the coaching industry, COVID-19. And yet, I must admit that during this period, activating a live webinar series, oh my goodness, without this situation, I might not have been so-called pushed into running live virtual training, and it's just opened up doors to touch the world. We have a mission to touch 1 million lives with our work, and in the past it was always face-to-face workshop, and yet I think necessity is the mother of all invention. Having to be put in this place and embracing it, feeling nervous but embracing it has just opened up opportunities. And I know that coming out on the other side, the new normal, boy, we are even more equipped with bigger offerings, things that we can do through life and all that. I know that our friends, some of them may want to reach out to you and maybe ask you questions and connect with you. Would you be open to that, Ayo?
Absolutely. I'm more than happy for anyone to reach out to me. I mean, my LinkedIn, I'm sure Dom will provide it to you, and that's an excellent way for me to reach out. And that's honestly how I've met quite a few people who I've come to talk to as well. Please, if you ever have any information either about the facilities management world, or to be honest, you're just interested in your story, or meeting a new person here in Sydney, or you just need to meet up to connect, please feel free to reach out. I am always looking to talk to new people. I'm always looking to learn more and enrich my life. So if you feel like we might be helpful to each other connecting, please reach out.
Wonderful. Excellent, my dear friend. Look, with I know that I was so super impressed with the Cornet Young Leaders Group, because obviously a lot of young leaders, dynamic, moving places, ambitious, coming along there as well, networking. Have they invited you yet to do your own talk?
Not yet, but what? I really hope they would.
Just the energy out there for you, my friend, because I think you have a story and I look forward to reading your book one day. Ayo, it's been an absolute honor and blessing. Thank you so much. If I was inspired the first time, I'm even more inspired this time, if at all possible. You're a gem in my life. I hope we will always stay connected, and I look forward to maybe doing this again, maybe in a couple of years or sometime down the track.
Absolutely, Dom. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoyed myself. And hey, let's grab a coffee soon again.
Love to, my friend. Take care. Give my love to Tess. You have the most amazing day.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Dom.
Thanks once again. On behalf of the listeners, you rock.
You too, Dom. Take care.